The next train to arrive on platform 3 goes to 1.21.5. First stop, the Garden Awakens. Then, all stations to Spring to Life. Doors closing. Please stand clear.
Well, it took longer than expected, especially with the new item components, data-driven enchants and rendering changes, but it's done. The fixed mod has finally been updated. And not only has everything that was in it before been updated, but more has been added to it too, and I can't wait to show you. My favourite addition, and evidently so, was to make furnace minecarts great again through the addition of proper trains. I had started work on this back in 1.20.4, but postponed development when the minecart experimental changes were first being worked on, and I'm so glad I waited. After increasing the top speed of copper rails to 40, 20, 10 and 5 blocks per second based on the oxidization, a furnace minecart will now attempt to automatically connect up to 7 other minecarts behind it, with every additional minecart reducing its max speed by 5%. Sure, furnace minecarts could already pull minecarts behind it, but it was, will I say, useless at best. If the first minecart after the furnace minecart is either a chest or hopper minecart, the furnace minecart will now take fuel from it to keep itself going, and it now accepts any fuel that you can stuff into the normal furnace, When a furnace minecart goes over an unpowered rail, it will turn itself off until you turn on the powered rail, allowing for the creation of fully functioning train stations. I originally wanted to use activator rails since I do want to give them a little bit more love. However, if you go over a powered activator rail, you get kicked out, which is not ideal. Minecarts can disconnect if a train becomes derailed or if the track itself is improper, but it can easily rejoin together, such as when it slides across the ice towards another rail in tradition with the Best Christmas Movie, which is why I've made it so that you don't need to manually connect them using chains. Due to this disconnecting and reconnecting, and that it is now possible to ride a minecart through a nether portal normally, it is possible to send a whole train through a nether portal. However, it is a little finicky, and I would recommend powered rails on both sides, or have the train do a jump into it, then have an automatic station to catch the minecarts on the other side before taking off again. With all that being said, go do what the trailer once told us to do.
Or take a ride on a roller coaster.
As we are now within 1.21, the trial chambers are now fully implemented, and as we have also gone through 1.21.2, with its new recipe, the bundle is now complete with its ability to take the item of your choice out and being able to put in up to 4 unstackables. Then with 1.21.4, you bet the first thing I did was add, just let me show you. With the Pale Garden now having an ever-present fog, I felt it fitting to have the Creekins spawn not just at night, but during the day too, so there is always a threat while walking around in them, with the Creekins now doing more damage, but are slightly slower. To stop the Creekins getting stuck, they will self-destruct at random, so stuffing them in a hole is no longer a permanent solution, unless you also name tag them for redstone purposes. With the Creaking now spawning in the day, I decided to add my original ominous biome idea into the Pale Garden at night, where mobs are far more likely to spawn with better gear, especially with super enchants, have more health and speed, come with status effects, and drop more XP. And while I was working on this, I also decided to give skeletons a chance to shoot tipped arrows based on its status effect, similar to how creepers drop an area effect cloud on explosion. Probably the biggest thing I received negative feedback on was the changes to the food system, namely stamina. Where I originally just threw in a stamina drain speed game rule shortly after the 1.20.4 release, I have now put a bit more work into it. The stamina regen speed is faster, equivalent to the speed of if you were sneaking before, which means sneaking is now only for overriding the healing at max stamina. Jumping also no longer drains stamina if you are not sprinting, but if you reach 0 stamina, there is a slight pause before it starts regenning again. I have also reduced the time it takes to eat larger foods and buffed the effect durations of not only the suspicious dews, but more importantly golden apples. And lastly, I have buffed sprint jumping such that if you are under the effects of swiftness, jump boost or both, it is still more effective than just sprinting, as sprint jumping is more fun and I want to encourage players to have fun. With the help of LuigiTime34 and his website, many crafting tweaks have been added, such as craftable chainmail gear, including the new chainmail horse armor to complete the set, the ability to use wooden planks and such in a stone cutter, and other things that, just make sense. On top of that, for those that complain about progression, there is now an optional data pack you can enable if you so please that modifies the crafting recipe of all tools and armor to contain the previous tier within it. And just for the sake of it, I threw in the Eye of Ender recipe that includes many other key areas of the game to force exploration, combat, and mastery before taking on the Ender Dragon. And as these eyes are harder to get, Ender chests have a 50% chance to drop it if broken without Silk Touch, and thrown eyes break 50% less of the time. Other small but nice additions include super enchants showing as green within the item tooltip, lingering water clouds actually look like some sort of rain rather than a potion effect, anvils can be repaired with an iron block and its netherite counterpart, a netherite ingot, so although its initial cost is still high, the ongoing cost is not as bad. The Thorns enchant does slightly less damage and only 1 bit of durability when procced. However, its damage bypasses immunity, so it stacks rather than capping out with multiple pieces of thorns. The map book shows icons from the overworld within the nether according to the 8:1 scale, and normal maps will continue to show the direction the player is facing even with off the map. A quartz pyramid under a beacon will give invisibility, horses can float on water even while ridden, note blocks can be tuned down by clicking the bottom half and shift-clicking them in creative with an empty hand plays the note without changing it. The biggest thing I have not managed to update is for villagers to show their armor, so for now an invisible armor stand at their location will have to do. And last but not least, I have removed the Kotlin language mod as a dependency and thus only now need this and the Fabric API to work. Short of the entire difficulty system overhaul I spoke about near the end of part 2, this mod is basically feature complete with regard to everything I spoke of within my videos. And as I continue to keep the mod updated, I'll continue to add small changes here and there in line with what the rest of this mod does. So if you were on the fence to try this mod before because it wasn't for the latest version of the game at the time, or if you are simply a huge train fanatic, then now is the time to play. Now is the time to have fun. You are under no obligation to, but if you would like to financially support me and this project, I have finally set up a Patreon, as I would also be opening up a Patreon server for those who wish to play with this mod with like-minded individuals, especially if you have no friends of your own. And if not, you are still always free to join the Discord and say hi, give feedback and let others know your experience with the mod. And Mojang, if you are listening, I am still in the market for a job. Please.